The early 20th century hummed with a deceptive peace. European empires, grand and powerful, had carved up the globe. Yet, beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Nationalism, a fierce pride in one's country, fueled rivalries. Germany, a rising power, challenged the established order. Countries formed alliances, pledging support in case of attack. These tangled webs of loyalty would prove disastrous. In the Balkans, a volatile region in southeastern Europe, tensions ran especially high. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne on June 28, 1914, provided the spark. Austria-Hungary, blaming Serbia for the act, declared war. The fragile peace shattered. Like dominoes falling, the alliance system kicked in. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia, which supported Serbia. Germany then declared war on France, Russia's ally. When Germany invaded neutral Belgium to reach France, Great Britain declared war on Germany. Within weeks, most of Europe was engulfed in the flames of World War I. The world watched in disbelief. What began as a regional conflict had exploded into a global conflagration, a testament to the interconnectedness of nations and the deadly consequences of unchecked ambition and fear. August 1914. Across Europe, a wave of euphoria gripped many. Young men, eager for adventure and a chance to prove their patriotism, rushed to enlist. They believed the war would be over by Christmas. They were tragically wrong. Germany, following a plan known as the Schlieffen Plan, aimed for a swift victory. They would knock France out of the war quickly, then turn their attention to Russia. German troops stormed through Belgium, their advance marked by brutality. The invasion of Belgium, a neutral country, outraged the world. However, the Schlieffen Plan faltered. German advances were halted at the Battle of the Marne in September 1914. The war on the Western Front, the battle lines stretching across France and Belgium, settled into a bloody stalemate. The initial romanticism of war evaporated in the face of the grim reality. Soldiers on both sides dug into trenches, a network of ditches that would become synonymous with the horrors of World War I. Machine guns, artillery, and poison gas transformed the battlefield into a mechanized killing ground. Life in the trenches was a nightmare. Soldiers endured unimaginable conditions: mud, rats, lice, disease, and the constant threat of death. The trenches themselves were cramped, filthy, and often flooded. The air reeked of decay and cordite. Attacks were often futile, soldiers charging across no man's land. The desolate stretch of ground between enemy trenches were mowed down by machine gun fire. Millions perished in battles with little ground gained. Verdun, the Somme, Passchendaele. These names became synonymous with unimaginable slaughter. "We lived in mud and filth," wrote one British soldier. "We were lousy, we were wet through, our food was bad, and we were filled with a terrible numbness." The stalemate on the Western Front dragged on for years. Each side poured in more men and resources, yet the line barely moved. The war of attrition exacted a horrific toll. Hope dwindled with each passing season. While the Western Front captured the world's attention, the Eastern Front raged with equal ferocity. Here, the vastness of the terrain made trench warfare less common, but the fighting was no less brutal. Russia, its army vast but poorly equipped, suffered heavy losses against the German and Austro-Hungarian forces. The war exacerbated internal tensions within Russia, ultimately leading to the Russian Revolution in 1917. Russia withdrew from the war, signing the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in 1918. The Ottoman Empire, allied with Germany, fought in the Middle East. British and French forces, aided by Arab rebels, sought to undermine Ottoman control of the region. The Ottoman Empire, already weakened by internal strife, eventually collapsed. World War I was truly a global conflict. Battles raged in Africa and Asia. Colonial troops were drawn into the fighting, their lives and sacrifices often overlooked in the annals of history. Section 5. Leaders and Tyrants, the Faces of War. World War I saw the rise of leaders who would shape the 20th century. Some were driven by a desire for peace, others by ambition and a lust for power. Woodrow Wilson, the American president, initially sought to keep his country out of the war. However, Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare, which threatened American lives and shipping, forced his hand. Wilson's 14 points, a plan for a just and lasting peace, offered a glimmer of hope in a world consumed by darkness. On the other side stood figures like Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany and Erich Ludendorff, the German general who wielded immense power. Their decisions, often driven by hubris and a belief in German military might, prolonged the bloodshed. The war also saw the rise of lesser-known but equally influential figures. Nurses like Edith Cavell, who aided soldiers from both sides, became symbols of compassion amid the barbarity. Poets like Wilfred Owen captured the horror of the trenches in their searing verse. Section 6. Technological terror, new weapons reshape warfare. World War I witnessed a terrifying evolution in weaponry. Machine guns, capable of firing hundreds of rounds per minute, transformed battlefields into killing fields. Artillery, more powerful than ever before, rained down death from afar. Poison gas, a new and horrifying weapon, was first used by the Germans in 1915. Chlorine gas, mustard gas, phosgene gas. These invisible killers caused excruciating burns, blindness, and agonizing deaths. Gas masks became essential equipment, adding to the dehumanizing nature of the fighting. Tanks, armored vehicles that could cross trenches and enemy lines, were introduced later in the war. Airplanes, initially used for reconnaissance, were soon armed with machine guns and bombs. The skies, too, became a battleground. These technological advancements did little to break the stalemate on the Western Front. Instead, they increased the war's lethality, turning battlefields into industrial abattoirs. Section 7. America enters the fray, shifting tides and new hope. The United States, despite President Wilson's initial desire for neutrality, entered the war in April 1917. Germany's resumption of unrestricted submarine warfare, which targeted American ships, and the Zimmermann Telegram, a secret German proposal for an alliance with Mexico against the United States, swayed public opinion. The arrival of American troops, fresh and eager to fight, provided a much-needed boost to the Allied war effort. American industrial might also tipped the scales. By 1918, the tide of the war was turning against Germany and its allies. The German Spring Offensive of 1918, a desperate attempt to achieve victory before American forces could fully deploy, ultimately failed. The Allies, bolstered by American troops and resources, launched a series of counteroffensives that drove the Germans back. By the fall of 1918, Germany's military situation was desperate. Morale on the home front collapsed. The German leadership, realizing that defeat was inevitable, began seeking an armistice. Section 8. Armistice, a world exhausted, a peace precarious. On November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m., the guns fell silent. After more than 4 years of bloodshed, an armistice was signed between Germany and the Allied powers. The Great War, the war to end all wars, was over. The world rejoiced. People danced in the streets, celebrating the end of the nightmare. Yet the cost of victory was staggering. Millions lay dead, their bodies strewn across battlefields or buried in unmarked graves. Empires had crumbled, economies lay in ruins, and the political landscape of Europe was forever altered. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war. However, the treaty, with its harsh punishments imposed on Germany, sowed the seeds of future conflict. Germany, blamed for the war and forced to pay heavy reparations, seethed with resentment. Section 9. Scars on the World. The enduring legacy of the Great War. World War I left an indelible mark on the world. The war's unprecedented scale of death and destruction shattered the illusion of progress that had characterized the late 19th century. The war also had a profound impact on art, literature, and music. The lost generation, writers and artists who had witnessed the war's horrors firsthand, produced works that reflected the disillusionment and cynicism of the post-war era. The war accelerated social and political change. Women, who had played a vital role in the war effort, gained new rights and opportunities. The collapse of empires led to the creation of new nations. The war's legacy, however, was complex and often contradictory. Section 10. Lest we forget. Remembering the millions touched by conflict. Today, more than a century after the guns fell silent, it is essential to remember the millions who lived, fought, and died in World War I. Their sacrifices remind us of the human cost of conflict and the importance of peace. We must learn from the mistakes of the past and work to build a more peaceful and just world. We must honor the memory of those who perished by striving to resolve conflicts peacefully, by promoting understanding and cooperation between nations, and by ensuring that the horrors of World War I are never repeated. For in the words of the poet John McCrae, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.